Hi, this is Munson from Munson Music, and we're going to talk about how you can play a song called Ballad of El Goodo by Big Star. And we're going to start out on a G major chord actually for our intro, and we'll talk about these licks, and we're going to end up capoing this on 6th fret to actually kind of match the recording. But we're going to start out on a G major chord, and when we play G major, first finger is going to go to the A on the 2nd fret, second finger on the low E string on the 3rd fret, the third finger on the high E string on the 3rd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a G major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. Now another G major that you may want to kind of consider is kind of doing first finger on the A string second finger on the low E string third finger on the B string on the 3rd fret, and the pinky on the high E string on the 3rd fret. And then still a G major chord, it's just there's kind of this cool little lick we'll talk about in a minute that kind of matches that chord instead of the regular G major. And then from the G we're going to be going to a D major chord. When we play D major, first finger goes to the G on the 2nd fret, a second finger on the high E string on the 2nd fret, third finger on the B string on the 3rd fret, and if you kind of strum just the D, G, B, and E, kind of the skinny 4 strings, that sounds a D major chord. And then from the D major, we're going to be going to an E minor chord. There's a couple ways you may want to think about playing the E minor too, where we put the first finger on the A string 2nd fret, second finger on the D string on the 2nd fret. If you strum all those together, that sounds an E minor chord. That sounds really, really sad. Now another E minor you might want to consider is something called E minor 7, where you take that E minor and then we take the 3rd finger and go to the B string on the 3rd fret and the pinky on the high E string on the 3rd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds something called an E minor 7 chord. So you may want to think about using that because it kind of matches the lick that we'll talk about. And then from the E minor 7, we'll go to D major, and then we go to an A minor chord. Actually, the way you play A minor, first finger goes to the B on the 1st fret, the second finger goes to the D on the 2nd fret, the third finger goes to the G on the 2nd fret. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that sounds like A minor chord, and it sounds really, really sad. Now another A minor you may want to consider though is if you take the pinky and go to the high E on the 3rd fret, that's another way to play something called A minor 7. It's a little bit jazzier kind of A minor chord. And that kind of matches that lick we're going to talk about in a minute. And then from the A minor, we could go back to D major, but if we want to match the lick, we'll go to D7. When we play D7, first finger stays on the B string 1st fret, second finger on the G string on the 2nd fret, and third finger on the high E string on the 2nd fret. And if you strum the D, G, B, and E with top 4 strings, just like the D major, that sounds something called D7 or D dominant 7, which sounds really, really nasty, but it helps us point back to a G chord. So that's kind of our progression through our intro. It's also our chorus progression. Is we got G major, D major, E minor, D major, A minor 7, D7, G major. Now there's some cool licks around that though, and if you're a little bit more adventurous, you can kind of take the G major with the 3 and 4, and then play the low E string with the high E string at the same time. And I'm kind of doing that hybrid picking, so I'm using my pick for my basses, and using my finger, actually I'm kind of using the ring finger for the high E string, and then you're going to use the middle finger to kind of play the B string right after that with the G chord. So it's kind of like bass finger, bass ring, and then kind of in middle finger afterwards is how I'm doing that. I mean, you may want to try this just finger style too. But right after that, that's called an arpeggio, where we kind of break up the chord into a little piece. Then we go to D major, but we do the D string for your bass, and kind of do that same arpeggio. And then we go to the E minor 7 and do the A string for the bass. So we kind of got the 2nd fret on the A string that kind of becomes the bass on that lick. And then we go to a D major and kind of do the open D string for our lick, kind of doing that same bass finger and middle finger kind of filling in on the B string. And then we go to A minor 7 and do that same lick. And then we go to a D7 and do that same lick, but with a D string for the bass. And actually on the A minor 7 you got the A string for your bass on that chord. And then you got the open D for the D7. It's kind of the bass notes, you're filling it in. And then we got a big hit on a G major at the very, very end. So if you wanted to, you could kind of play around with those licks at the beginning. Might be kind of a cool way to kind of intro the tune. People who know the tune, they'll go, oh my gosh, it's Ballad of El Goodo, I love this song. And then there's this cool little lick that happens around the G major after that, where you do an open, the 2nd fret hammer on the A string, and then you'd go G string and then B string. And actually I'm kind of doing that still with the hybrid idea. I'm using my pick for the A string, hammer on, and then going middle on the G string, ring finger on the B string after it. And then we kind of do that same idea but with a D string hammer on, and then we go to open D, and then kind of do that same idea. And then we go to low E on the 3rd, and then do that middle index. And then we do the hammer on, and then the hammer on the D string in, and then we end with an open D. And that lick kind of comes back later on where you got kind of that G, O2, play around with that. Actually, I just kind of try and get that lick in there. And then from there, then we go into our verse part. And on our verse, we start on G major, but then we go to a C major chord. When we play C major, first finger goes to the B string on the first fret, second finger on the D string on the second fret, the third finger on the A string on the third fret. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that sounds a C major chord, and that sounds really, really happy. And then from the C, then we go to the A minor or the A minor 7, and then we go to a D major or a D7. And then from there, then we go to a B minor chord. There's a couple ways you may want to play around with B minor. You could do it as a second fret bar with first finger, second finger on the B string, third fret, third finger on the D, fourth fret, pinky on the G string, fourth fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a B minor chord. It sounds really, really sad. Now another option for that is to kind of take the skinny few strings and make a smaller version of it. So you could do first finger on the high E second fret, second finger on the B string, third fret, and the third finger on the G string on the fourth fret. And if you strum the top 3 of the top 4 strings with that, that's another way to play B minor. Another way to play B minor would be taking the third finger from the G string and going to the D string 4th fret, and then taking the pinky and going to the G string on the 4th fret for kind of a little bit thicker B minor on the D, G, B, and A. Another option would be to use something called B minor 7. And when we play B minor 7, first finger goes to the A on the second fret, second finger is the G on the second fret, and the third finger on the high E string on the second fret. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that gets you a clear sound with that, and that's called B minor 7. Now another option, because those drone voicings actually in the beginning where we're kind of doing that third finger on the B string, third, pinky on the high string, third, you may want to think about another B7 that's kind of cool too, where you do first finger on the A string second, second finger on the G string second, and then third fingers on the B string third, pinky on the high string third. It's kind of a B minor 13, I guess, got kind of a G note added. That might be another option that you may want to kind of think about. It kind of gives you a nice like move from the D to the B minor 7 and to another G chord after that chord, so it's definitely a possibility that could feel really good. And then from there, then we go to the C major chord again. And at the end of our verse, then we go to an E flat major chord. And one really easy way to play E flat major is if you take the D major shape that we're playing and kind of slide it over one fret. Now you've got first finger on the G string third, second finger on the high string third, third finger on the B string on the 4th fret. If you strum just the G, B, and E, then that's a little E flat major. And then from there, then we almost start that over again. We go back to G, C, A minor, D, B minor, G major, C major, but then we go to an F major chord. When you play F major, normally you do this as a first finger bar, second finger on the G string, second fret, third finger on the A string, third fret, and the pinky on the D string on the 3rd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds an F major chord. It sounds really, really happy. Now, if you want to avoid the bar chords, though, a good substitute for that is to play an F major 7. When you play F major 7, first finger goes to the B string on the 1st fret, second finger on the G string, 2nd fret, third finger on the D string on the 3rd fret. And if you strum just the D string to the high string, that sounds an F major 7. So it looks a lot like C major, but that definitely would be another option for the F. And through that part, it almost feels like we would do kind of 2 downs on each chord. So we tried that whole part with kind of just 2 downs on everything. We'd have G with a down, down, C, down, down, A minor 7, down, down, D, down, down, B minor, down, down, G, down, down, C, down, down, E flat, G major, C major, A minor, D, B minor, G major, C major, then we got F, and then from there, then we go into our chorus part. And our chorus is just like our intro at the very beginning. We kind of got that G, D, E minor, D, A minor, D, G. And you might want to kind of throw, there's this cool little lick that kind of happens through that. We're going to play the open A string and kind of do that first part of the lick actually from the intro where you got that open that's 2 hammer on and then open D. So right after that last G, you might want to throw in the lick before you kind of start that back over again. That could be a very, very cool thing to kind of do through that part. And at the end of our chorus is actually that whole lick comes back. So you may want to kind of play around with that too. You could bring that intro lick back and actually kind of accent those G chords in the chorus. And then from there, actually, we're repeating a lot of those parts until we get to our second chorus has a cool tag to it, where we start out on A minor, and then we do another A minor, and then we go to C major, and another C major, and then we go back to A minor, and we do another A minor, and then then we go to C major, and then we do another C major, and then we do an A minor, and there's a really quick walk, but you could kind of use something called C/B, and I'm cheating this, but can be very cool for that change. It's kind of doing a quick A minor, and then taking the second finger and going to the A string on the second fret, leaving the third finger out of this, and kind of strumming just the A string to that B string to kind of get a little bass move on the A string from kind of an A note to a B note to lead into a C chord. And then we do an A minor at the very end of that, and then there's this cool little lick that turns up where you do first finger on the B string is kind of a pull off. So I'm kind of playing that note and kind of letting my finger fall off the string. And then we go to second fret on the G and do a pull off to open G, and then we play second fret on the D. So there's 10202. That's kind of a cool little lick right after that A minor. So you may want to kind of play around with that too. And then from there, then we go into our bridge part. And our bridge starts on the E minor chord. And then we do another E minor, and then we go to A minor, another A minor, and then we go to D major, and then we do another G major, D major. And then we kind of do a big G major chord, and you'll hear that another little abbreviation almost of our intro lick come back. We got third on the low E string, open A as a hammer on the second fret, and then we do open to second as a hammer on the D string, but then we play open D and then open G. So there's a little variation on that, like we're going G, A, D, 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 G. You might want to kind of work that 020 as kind of a hammer on pull off. Very cliche kind of country ending lick that kind of comes in there. It's very cool. So you may want to play around with that too. Now the weird thing is to play along with Big Star, instead of starting on a G major chord, they're actually starting on a C sharp major chord. Oh my gosh. So what you want to do to play along with the recording is you want to take a capo, and if you put the capo on 6th fret, then now your G major is really a C sharp major, your D major is really a G sharp major, your E minor is really an A sharp minor, your A minor is really a D sharp minor, and your B minor chord is really F minor chord. But I don't know if you want to call that an E sharp minor. I guess it depends on what school you went to, or what you had for lunch. But anyway, so we could kind of kick it off, and we could just kind of block through those chords like we started with that, just that G, D, E minor, D, A minor 7, D7, G. And then you could kind of throw in those licks, or you could work that whole lick actually where we had kind of those arpeggios of those chords. So you may want to kind of play around with that, or just using the little pieces that kind of make up the lick. And then we could kind of go into that hammer-on lick after that. Let's see that. So we want to kind of play around with that G lick after that. And then from there, then we go into our verse part, and we could kind of work just those 2 downs on each chord. We have G with a down, down, C, down, down, A minor 7, down, down, D, down, down, B minor, down, down, G, down, down, C, down, down, E flat, G major, C, A minor, D7, E minor, G, C, F, and then from there, then we go into our chorus part, and we could kind of keep that through the chorus. It almost feels like you really just have time for just the downs, except for on that 1 G at the end, where you could almost kind of get into 2 downs, but it would really sound better to kind of do the G and the lick on that last G. So you have G, D, E minor, D, A minor, D, G lick, G, D, E minor, D, A minor, D, G lick. And then from there, they would be going back into our verse part. Now, one other strum pattern I would think about using is kind of working a long down, down, down up kind of idea. So just to try that, like on the G, you'd have a down, down, down. It's kind of a possibility. It's kind of filling in that second down that we were doing. So instead of going down, down, now I'm going down, 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 up, down, 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 up. So we tried that through our verse. You'd have G with a down, 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 C down, 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 E minor down, 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 D, E minor, G major, C major, E flat, G major, C major, A minor, D, E minor, G major, C major, F major, that blocking part again, just that D, E minor, D, A minor, D, G lick, G major, D, E minor, D, A minor, D, G major lick. And now if you're a little bit more adventurous there, you could kind of get a down, down, up to work on each of those chords. So if you want to try this could be very cool too, is to do G with a down, down, D, down, down, E minor, down, down, D, down, down, E minor, down, down, D, down, down, G, down, lick. So you may want to kind of play around with that, and actually right at the end of those phrases, you kind of have that intro lick coming back. From there, then we go into a chorus tag, and our chorus tag, we got that A minor part, and if we wanted to, we could kind of keep that either one of our strum patterns going, either just the down, down on each chord, kind of working 2 downs on each one, or we could try the down, down, down up. So we try with the down, down, down up, and then we'd have A minor with the down, 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 A minor, C, A minor, really cool push to where you may want to do kind of A minor and C/B into the C chord, and then we kind of got our big A minor hit with kind of that lick at the very, very end. Now if you're a little bit more adventurous, you could kind of throw in basses for this strum pattern too. So on the A minor, you could do an A string for your bass, and then kind of keep the down, down, down up idea going. And where we do have that one push from the A minor to C/B, you could work that as kind of a bass, down, up, and then kind of work it into the C at the very end. So that could be a cool way to kind of work it too. So we tried it that way. You'd have A minor with an A bass, down, down, A minor with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, A minor with an A bass, down, down, A minor with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, A minor with an A bass, down, C, A minor/C or C/B, C major, and then A minor. I got that lick, and then from there, then we go into our bridge part. And our bridge part, we could do any of those ways too. We could kind of work the 2 downs on each one: E minor, A minor, A minor, D major, D major, and then the G. And we got that G lick that kind of turns up. Or we could try that with our down, down, down up, and then we have E minor, A minor, down, down, up, and on the E minor you'd have the low E string for your bass. On the A minor you'd have the A string for your bass, and then when we get to the D chord you have the D string for your bass. So we tried it that way. We'd have E minor with an A bass, E minor with an A bass, A minor with an A bass, D major with an E bass, and G lick. So you may want to kind of play around with it, but that way too. And then from there, then we'd be going back into our verse part. So we tried that with kind of that bass down, down, up on each chord. We'd have G with low E bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, A with an A bass, down, down, D with an E bass, down, down, E minor's got an A bass, down, down, G with low E bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, E flat. I'm cheating on the G string for the basses. And then G with low E bass, C with an A bass, A minor with an A bass, down, down, D with an E bass, down, down, E minor with an A bass, down, down, G with low E bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, F with the bass, down, down, D with the bass, down, down. And then from there, then we'll be going back into our chorus part. So we tried that with a bass down, up on each chord, which could be a cool thing too. You could kind of work the G as kind of the bass, down, D with the D bass, down, D minor with the A bass, down, D with the D bass, down, A minor with the A bass, down, D with the D bass, down, G with the E bass. So you could kind of play around with it that way. Although it can also be very cool to bring back those intro licks too for yourself, actually. Play around with that too, actually, through those choruses. Or you could just work just kind of the downs too, actually, in a lot of different ways. Just whatever works for you. And G major. And then from that chorus, actually, we end up doing that 4 times, and you might want to kind of bring back kind of that G lick from the intro again too. And then from there, then we go into kind of our hold on bridge again. So then we're back to our E minor with low E bass, A minor with an A bass, bass, G with low E bass, bass, G with the D bass, G with the low bass. And then from there, then we go into our outro part. And our outro part actually just kind of brings back that lick from our intro. So you may want to kind of play around with that. We end up doing that 4 times. And then at the very end, there's this cool little G tag where we play low E on the 3rd fret, and then go open A, and kind of do a hammer on the 1st fret and the 2nd fret. And then we do open D, and kind of do a hammer on the 2nd fret and a pull off to open D. And then we go open G, and then play low E on the 3rd, and then we play a big G chord. It's a very cool cliche country tag where we got 3, O 1 2 hammer on, O 2 O hammer on pull off, open G, and then G chord. So that could be a very, very cool thing to kind of work in there at the very, very end too. But that's the basics of how you can strum through Ballad of El Goodo by Big Star. So good luck!